My name is Kelly Huang. I am a product generalist, but my actual day job is to be the VP of product at a data privacy company called Ethyca. So we're going to just kick things off with a little bit about me, some light stuff, light content here. So I'm Kelly Huang. I don't expect anyone to know who I am unless you've met me before, but I'm the VP of product at a company named Ethyca. So Ethyca is a data privacy company based out of New York City. We're a SaaS platform that automates data privacy compliance for online businesses. So anytime anyone wants to request their data to be deleted, request to access their data, or request to rectify their data or to not sell their data to advertisers, Ethyca basically automates all of those processes on the back end so we can actually perform those actions for online businesses. So our goal is to actually ensure consumer trust in online businesses and to reduce risk for those companies. So we're a B2B company. So it's a portmanteau on the term ethics and data. So Ethyca combines those two words. And our mission is to be the trust infrastructure of the internet. It's a mission I'm personally passionate about, which is why I'm here to talk to you all today about it. It is not a product pitch. I want you all to feel super comfortable asking whatever question you want. This is a safe zone. Whatever questions you have about privacy, I'm ready to answer and would love to take any questions if you guys have it. Feel free to just holler when you guys you have a question that pops up. Cool. So my company does not actually define me. So I've been on a really weird career journey. If you're looking at the timeline here, I actually started off my education and my career in hospitals. I used to work on a fire truck. I used to work in an ER. I used to work on a cardiac ICU. I actually thought I was going to go to med school because I thought I was like really, really smart. My brain was like this big, but it really isn't because I can't memorize things. I'm not good at it. I'm good at intuiting things, using my gut and, reacting and proactively planning. So I've been on a really interesting career journey that started in hospitals, then moved into healthcare IT, then video games, if you guys are familiar with Activision Blizzard, and then fintech. It's a little more dry than video games, but whatever. Then I moved into product strategy consulting, which is also a bit dry, but it gave me a lot of different experiences that I was able to kind of stretch in a whole bunch of different directions for being a great product manager or generalist. And then finally back to healthcare again. I moved back to Palo Alto and went back into healthcare IT. And finally, I'm at Ethyca, which is the company I'm currently at. So what makes all these things, what makes me qualified to talk about privacy, having done what I've done? And so what maybe you don't understand is about me is that from my time working on the ambulances, working in the ER, I was actually programming hospital EMRs, electronic medical records. And I was actually recruited to work for a company called Mirth that effectively connects hospitals to other hospitals and healthcare facilities. So if you've been seeing in a hospital in the last 5 years, you're more than likely were using technology that I have probably worked on in order to pull information from other healthcare facilities. If you've been seen in a hospital in the United States, it's a pretty cool feeling.
She's done a lot of EMR.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, say again.
I think that was accidental.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So yeah, if you've been seen in a hospital in the last 5 years, you've probably been using technology without even knowing it that I've worked on. And so, basically anytime a hospital has to pull information from another healthcare facility or from a diagnostic facility like a lab or a, imaging facility, my company Mirth was actually working on that. Now, fortunately for me, we were acquired by NextGen Healthcare, which is one of the larger EMRs, electronic medical records out there in the United States. But basically, we were breaking down data silos in order to reduce patient costs and make a safer and more convenient patient experience. So we were moving records to and from various data silos, if you will. But really what we were doing, we're breaking down walls, breaking down barriers, very similar to my favorite guy, the Kool-Aid Man. So effectively, we're breaking down data barriers in the healthcare field. And that was something that, generally speaking, that's actually what piqued my interest in data privacy. You guys have probably already also heard of the term HIPAA, which is actually the Data Privacy and Portability Act that prevents, first off, any hospital from unnecessarily disclosing your personally identifying information or personal health information, but also it allows you to send your information to any hospital where you're receiving care. So it's privacy and portability at the same time. So really working in healthcare, it's entrenched in data privacy. It's just not called that. It's not called the same thing that we know it in consumer tech. So at Blizzard, I was actually responsible for just under 1 billion player accounts in the e-commerce platform and transactions therein. So when the GDPR regulations came into effect, basically the entire company was shook. Activision Blizzard said, the parent company said, oh my God, we need to figure out what's going on because we have so many players in the EU. GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulations, basically started to say, if any player says that they want to access their information or for you to delete their player information, you must do it or face a penalty up to 5% of your global revenue. It's a real, they'll really stick you with the fines. And especially for a company as large as Activision Blizzard, it's a very big price to pay. So needless to say, I became very familiar with the GDPR very quickly. And I actually was the first product manager to implement it across the brand, the portfolio of game brands. So that's Activision, King, Blizzard, Bungie. So after that, I was actually at the Dev Exchange in Capital One. I ran the developer platform that served third-party developers with open banking APIs. It was the first of its kind in America. We released APIs that opened bank accounts. They pulled bank account transaction data and customer data. And we were basically breaking down data silos like my favorite guy, the Kool-Aid man, in the banking industry. It's something that a lot of people don't think about. When you go to mint.com, how do they get your information from your banks, right? It's because of the APIs that we created at banks like Capital One, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, to be able to allow companies to develop on those open APIs and on an open API standard. So lastly, what we have here toward the end of the whistle-stop tour of my career, we have, I consulted a little bit with Fortune 500 companies on how they could embark on a full digital transformation of various business units. We saw the same problem over and over and over again, which is that businesses were stuck in legacy technology, which is a problem they actually created for themselves. You know, if you've worked at a large company, if you're working at a large company, you probably know how much red tape there is trying to just knock on the door of another line of business and say like, hey, can I just get access to this? Insert anything here for this. So, you know, we kept seeing the same problem over and over and over. And these were really all self-inflicted, which was really sad to see. They were creating their own data silos, they were creating their own red tape, all in the name of just like bureaucracy and preserving lines of business. And we basically didn't care. The data transformation initiatives that we went forward with for some of these Fortune 500 companies, which I can't really name, unfortunately, were mostly having to do with open access to data across lines of businesses. And lastly, Citizen, before I joined Ethyca, is a clinical trial marketplace, one of the first of its kind using AI and ML and leveraging HIPAA, the Healthcare Patient Portability Act, to be able to access information coming from hospitals, doing some natural language processing and machine learning on that information and being able to match those patients into clinical trials. We were starting with the sickest of the sick in cancer patients. It was truly one of the most fulfilling jobs I think I've ever had, being able to work with cancer patients directly and getting them matched into clinical trials. They're currently based out of Palo Alto. They're a really great company if you guys have heard of them. So again, breaking down data silos, pulling data from all sorts of hospitals everywhere so that we know that we can match these patients into the most relevant clinical trials to them and their current condition. It was great. But today is not a day to talk about me. Today is a day we talk about one of my most favorite topics. And I'm here to share my observation across all of those verticals in healthcare and fintech and games, everything, to talk about one of these topics that's super near and dear to my heart, which is you and your personal data. And you, not even as a UX designer or whatever your job title is, your day job is, but you as a general internet citizen. So this is the interactive part of the show that Chris was talking about. By a show of emoji reactions, get your clickers ready, guys. By a show of emoji reactions, have you ever searched for or shopped for something online? Like in this example, how big is a ping pong table? And all of a sudden, you start seeing it follow you around the internet. It shows up in your Instagram. It shows up in your news sites. It shows up in Reddit. It shows up in dictionary.com. It shows up literally anywhere. Has anyone experienced this phenomenon? Anyone? Looking for emojis here. Looking for emojis. Thumbs up if you have done this before or seen this before. I can't emoji in my own, seriously, I can't emoji in my own conference. That's silly. Because I am 2 thumbs up. I am like 15 thumbs up. This happens to me literally every day. I cannot look at the internet without this happening. So as you guys could probably see, you're not alone. It's happening to everybody. You go on, you have any social media account, you know these ads are following you around. In fact, I am pretty sure my ads know me better than my husband, okay? It knows me better than I know me. It's pretty scary. It's a little creepy. It's kind of annoying, but you know, some people actually kind of like the fact that they have personalized ad experiences that are tailored to them. So, you know, whatever people like, we're just gonna leave it as we're gonna leave it as that. So you're not alone, but it does beg the question of how we got here. And the $1 million question, which most of us should probably already know, and probably already know the answer to, if I'm being honest, if you've worked in product or in design or in marketing, the real question is, how did we get here? And of course, everyone knows at the tactical ground level how we got here, right? I mean, you work on marketing campaigns, you know that you're gonna put a cookie on someone's browser. You know that if you're tracking Google Ad Analytics, you get to know what AdWords, what people are searching, and you get to target people and retarget people. We all know these things at the ground level and what they look like and what they manifest themselves as at the ground level. But really, we need to pull up for a second and really understand what the problem space is. And so, to quote from my girl, Cardi B, the queen, from the top, we make it drop. The AARRR funnel. This is the funnel, guys. This is the flywheel that keeps B2C companies moving. So to deep dive on this, we need to start with growth fundamentals, which is conversion 101. So how do we get customers through the door? Customer acquisition. Well, we got to go fishing for them, right? How do we get users to actually use our product? We need to make sure that they have the great first experience. And in UX, that is one of the most fundamental principles of being able to make sure that users come in, they feel welcome in your app, they know exactly what to do. That very first touch of logging into your app or signing up for an account for the first time, it's so meaningful, because if any of you guys know, drop off is, well, it obviously varies, but drop off is pretty great after the very first sign up or very first activation, right? You need to make sure that you keep those MAUs and DAUs up so that, you know, your customers are always coming back, your users are always coming back. So moving into the next part of the funnel of retention, we need to keep those users coming back. So you activate them, you keep them hooked, but then you send them maybe nurture campaign emails, or maybe they're coming back because they love the experience. They love how sticky it is. They come back because they're using it. So we want to make sure we're retaining those users, right? Next, we want to make sure we're making money off those users, because businesses don't pay for themselves, people. We got to make sure we're making money off of our users. And really, at the end of the day, making money off those users is for an e-commerce company, it's buying. So if you're in design, if you're in product, if you're a visual designer, an experience designer, you've probably all worked on the fundamental e-commerce purchase conversion, right? If you've not worked on a purchase conversion, oh boy, treat yourself. It is a lot of fun. Data tells all. Data tells you how to convert users after they've abandoned a cart, when they're purchasing on checkout flow. If you've never worked on a checkout flow, it is a great part of your own experience growth, and I highly recommend it. But to move forward down that funnel, we also have the referral part of the AARRR funnel. So do your users tell other users? We want happy users so we can get that kind of golden goose network effect that we always hear about, right? You want to push more users through the funnels because great sticky apps have a great network effect. You have people that refer their friends and tell other people about your really awesome app. They go on Twitter and they tweet about it, right? And then all of a sudden you've got people flooding into your app, and now you're filling up that funnel back at the top. So the funnel game is real. Filling the top of the funnel is effectively going to give you more shots on goal to having customers hand you money so that you can keep this growth flywheel turning. And so we focus right here at the top, the filling of the funnel, because in most B2C product experiences, they're designed around pushing people through this funnel. And to get more people at the bottom funnel, it's a numbers game. It's a game of Moneyball, guys. The more people you put in through the top, the more people you're going to get out the bottom. And that's just the way the math shakes out. And so how do we make sure we keep people coming through the door? Well, sorry for the ugly splash here, guys, but the reality is that it's user data. You know you're collecting this data because your goal is to understand user behavior. You want to understand how users are finding your product. You want to understand how they're behaving once they're in the app. You need to find also behavior for them adjacent to your app. Even if they're not in your app, are they looking at apps like yours? Are they using apps like yours? Are they buying products similar to yours? You want to understand all of these user behaviors, or even pre-user behaviors, people that aren't yet your customers, because it helps you to fill the funnel with more users like them. And even if you're not in marketing, this is all kind of just basics, right? Because if we're product people, for UX people, we still know that to build a good user experience, you need to collect this information. And if you're not collecting this information, you're already behind. Or maybe you can refer in a different way, but most likely you're probably behind. The fact is, you need to understand your user behavior in order to understand how they're using your product, because you're not sitting behind them, watching them over their shoulder, seeing how they're like tapping on your app. You need to see the user data and how they're clicking, how long they're spending on pages, how long they're spending in a checkout flow, for instance. So the point is that we're using this information to build better in-product experiences, but we're also using this information for determining what our ideal user profiles are and how we can fish for more of these types of users that look like the people that are already in your app. So our marketing teams are hard at work using this data that we have on our users in our app from our BI and analytics tool, whatever you guys are using, and they're building audiences. They're creating lookalike models. They're creating other lead generation tools to fill this funnel again with more users that look like the users that are already in your app. All right. And so it continues, the circle of life. So typically I try to steer clear of a lot of words on my slides, but this one's pretty valuable. So generally, like we were talking about the ping pong example, people are going to browse websites. You're going to go on Google. You're going to go shop for that dream ping pong table you've always wanted, because we're in a pandemic now. You can't go to the office and hit the ping pong table, right? So people are going to browse websites for that ideal state, that dream ping pong table. And businesses own those websites that the people visit. The businesses collect that data, right? Because they want to know who's buying their ping pong tables. And then they're going to go find more people to go buy their ping pong tables. More people like me, people in tech that are missing hitting the ping pong table. Maybe they're going to find more females in their 30s to 40s to go shopping for their husbands that are in tech or something. But basically, then that data is sold to third parties, data brokers, advertising companies, whomever. There is an RFP process that basically happens behind the scenes to sell this audience information, this user data, to these companies to make sure that they're serving you the most relevant ads. And so when people buy things online, businesses sell things to those people, right? I bought my ping pong table, cool. I'm at home hitting the ping pong ball. Businesses want to sell more things to people, and therefore the data is bought by those third parties, from those third parties, so they can create those audiences, right? So it's the circle of life. There's a supply and demand cycle here that basically ends up being people that are searching for a thing, searching for that ping pong table. They haven't yet converted to people that have actually ultimately ended up buying ads against this because they want to sell their ping pong tables. So it's a supply and demand cycle here. So the long story short, just pretend you didn't hear anything I just talked about. Internet users are finding out, right? Internet users are finding out about how evil advertising agencies are. Chris mentioned at the top of the call, this is a very relevant discussion, especially for the beer and UX group, because this was just mentioned in last month's talk. This is something that we all know about, especially living and breathing in tech, and then also the just general daily news cycle, right? So internet citizens are becoming woke. And this is actually kind of the most scary part, because this is where it starts to erode trust in internet companies, like probably all the ones that we're working at. And, I don't know about you guys, but I still got a few more years left in me. I kind of want to stay in tech for a good long time. So this is a study done by Pew. You all can see this. 6 in 10 Americans believe it is not possible to go through their daily life without having their data collected. People know their data is being collected. They're seeing the trails of it all around the internet, ads following them around, companies knowing their name, email address, potentially even phone numbers. It's scary. It's a scary world. And people know that companies are actually collecting and perhaps even purchasing this information. So 72% of Americans also report that feeling that all or most of what they do online is being tracked by advertisers, technology firms, or other companies. 19% think that some of what they do is being tracked. And close to half of all adults surveyed, I think this one had like 5,000 American adults, people over the age of 18 in the United States. 50% believe that at least most of their online activities are being tracked by the government. So this is America, people. I don't care what you think about what happened last week, but all this shit's a little scary. I'm just saying. It's a little scary to know that the government's tracking you. All these online companies are tracking you. Everyone is aware. People are becoming woke. And so to that end, we want to make sure that there's not this feeling of apathy, but, especially according to this, to the survey, most people realize there's nothing they can really do. It's kind of sad. They realize that they have no control over who can access their online data, who can access their personal data or their online searches. It's a little bit sad. But you know what? It actually poses a really interesting challenge for us as in the user experience and product realms, because we need to make sure that even if we aren't selling data, or even if we are, if people are already under the impression that you're collecting their data and they realize they can't do anything about it, don't turn the knife, right? There are things we can do to make sure that we're more transparent with these users so that they don't feel this kind of learned helplessness that kind of comes with the game of online data collection. So, very quick poll. If you guys are in the chat, if you would please respond. When was the last time you read through a company's privacy policy all the way through? All the way through. 1 within the last week, 2 within the last month, 3 within the last year, or 4. You crazy? I never. Who the hell reads these things? They're like freaking 600 pages long. Never. Yeah. Once as a reference. Good job, Matt. I applaud you. What's 0? I guess 0 means all the time. I guess. Ooh, good for you. Jacqueline Beyonce. It's like Beyonce, maybe? If you would like to elaborate on that 0, I am very interested to know if you always read it. Oh, a 0 as never read. Okay, got it. I was like, that's some next level shit. She's at a 0. She's always reading privacy policies. Also, does your last name rhyme with Beyonce? Beyonce?
Yeah, that's right.
That's pretty sweet. You should just change it to Beyonce.
I get that all the time.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, I'm very jealous. Mine's Huang and it rhymes with dong, so it's not as fun. Definitely not as fun. Cool. So this is the sad thing, is that most of these businesses, most of these online businesses will always say, hey, you can't sue us. You can't come after us because all that information that we're taking from you, it all lives in our privacy policy. But it's like 600 pages. So who the hell's going to read it, right? So the point here is that there's real privacy policy fatigue, as we just saw. I mean, I think I counted roughly like 20 responses, 25 responses. And like, really the fact is that maybe, Matt Stoner read it once for reference, maybe. But, the fact is most people aren't doing it. Now, I'm not going to lie. I think people were lying in the survey. People's lying in the survey. But 97% of Americans say they are asked to approve privacy policies. However, only 1 in 5 adults say they always or often read a privacy policy. I think they're they are definitely lying. Because who's going to actually read the privacy policy, right? And always was really only 9%, and then often was actually only 13%. So if you break it down like that, we know the people that said often are lying. Let's just be real. So, and the people that said always are like, I don't even know. They're also lying. So really the point is that there's not a lot of people that read it. But you're right. They are 5 pages in 8-point font with 0 border margins. And again, who's going to read it? And who's going to print out a privacy policy? Anyways, we're digressing. The point is here is that people don't really read the privacy policy. And, in this, again, so this is the exact same question that you guys were just asked. 8 in 10 Americans say that they're asked to agree to privacy policy at least monthly. Including a quarter who say this happens almost daily. Actually, this wasn't the same question, but this is basically everyone that's asked to agree to a privacy policy. And every time you sign up for a new platform, you're agreeing to that privacy policy. That every time you check out of a e-commerce site or buy something on Instagram or something, you are consenting to their privacy policy. Whether or not you saw the checkbox that said that you did it, you did. And so the point is that these are happening all the time, all around us. And the good thing, but also kind of the bad and scary thing, is that education is everywhere. If you guys have heard of that little video on demand platform they call Netflix, they've got this movie out there called The Social Dilemma. This is supposed to be bringing light. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. There's The Great Hack, which talked about the Cambridge Analytica. We have Mark Zuckerberg trying water for the first time. It looks so tasty. I gotta. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for the motivation, Mark. But really, we've got the EU GDPR, we have LGPD, we have the California Consumer Privacy Act. Hopefully maybe most of you guys are in California and have heard of this, but LGPD is in Brazil. So if you are serving any customer that lives in the state of California, that is a citizen of the EU, or is a citizen of Brazil, your business is required under law to have to abide by these regulations. And the fact is that these things are becoming more and more well-known and more well documented. So global federal agencies, as you can see, are now demanding accountability. Really only 7 of 53 countries lack data privacy laws. And that's actually kind of good. That's good for people like us, like the internet citizens, internet plebes like myself, right? The fact is we want to be going on Reddit and searching for whatever. And we don't want to necessarily have people following us around and ads following us around. And the fact is that we do, as internet citizens, deserve some sort of rights, right? But we still have kind of a lot farther to go. And these are all of major first world countries, but I can also include links as well for this particular study. But this is done by a law firm in California right at the advent of CCPA being released, or CCPA being passed. So basically, we want to make sure that we are helping our fellow internet citizens just become aware that these are their rights, and because they should be. And if you think about it, you as an internet citizen would also want to know that you have these rights available to you as well. So how do we fix this, right? We've talked about a lot of problems. It's a little bit disheartening, but guess what? Everyone on this call, if you work at a software company, you have the power to fix this. We all have a very interesting responsibility in the world right now. No political motivation or incentive there at all, but we all have a very interesting role in shaping the way the next generation of software products are made and built. So restoring trust to online businesses starts with the folks inside the business, every single one of you. Doing the right thing for internet consumers doesn't have to be bad for business. In fact, it can actually be very good for business. So if you're in UX and design, work through some clear to user design systems and copy that put the facts in your users' hands without the cognitive load. This is a very interesting design paradigm because people seem to think that privacy is the least sexy thing you can work on in design because it's all legal text and you got to have this, you got to have that, it's regulations, blah, blah, blah. It really doesn't have to be. The fact is that it's a really interesting problem to solve. How do you explain data privacy to someone like your parents who are like, how do I do this iMessage thing, the FaceTime? How do you explain data privacy to someone like your parents in plain words, plain conversational words? How do you explain it to someone that's really young, and they're coming up in the era of internet, right? You see the TikTok, you see the dub smash, you see everything, right? They've seen it all before the age that I had a computer at, okay? How do you explain to them that there are data privacy rights? Because the fact is that, they're not 18 yet, but they are going to be subject to those data privacy rights as well. So focusing on user trust-centered design is it's a thing that I have advocated for since I was at Blizzard. The fact is that there are a whole bunch of dark UX patterns all around the internet in the name of filling that funnel, making sure that people have, easy ways to opt into your privacy policy. And honestly, I actually point this out. This is from Facebook. I actually don't think that this is enough. I don't think they're doing enough to show that your birthday, it is a tooltip on hover. You must hover over the tooltip to find out what they're using your birthday for. Don't you kind of want to know what you're using my birthday for? What they're using your birthday for? You can open a freaking credit card with your birthday and your first name and your last name. It's crazy. So clear to user design systems, user trust-centered design. That's what I'm advocating for here. If you're also looking for other ways to help, simple typeface, clear explanatory copy, and visual tools to understand how data is used. That simple typeface, I know that sounds like an obvious duh moment, but you would be very surprised. You would be very, very surprised how many people don't think that this is important. The fact is readability matters. Readability truly matters. And if you have a copywriter on your team, if you have a contract copywriter in or near your team, you should definitely be employing them to help with this, because the fact is that if you don't understand a privacy policy, if you don't understand why you're using certain data, that information, it's just going to add to eroding user trust. So the fact is that there are other things, and I can leave some resources on this, but there are closed tests, CLOZE, maze testing. These are things that are used at the elementary age level to understand reading comprehension. It is in verbal comprehension, and language development. As you can see, Apple's created the nutrition label. This actually just came out in the most recent, iPhone and iOS release. They have a nutrition label now as a visual indicator for apps in their app store to show what these apps are actually collecting about you. And you can actually go directly from the very first chunk of information on the app store. You can now go directly to their privacy policy, which is probably like, what'd they say, eight pages in 5-point font. The fact is that they're trying to make it easier to be able to understand what data is being collected about you, the users of their app. And Apple seems to think that they are held responsible now for it. They are held to a higher standard to be able to serve that information in a readily available way, like you see here. The nutrition label is what they call it. So lastly here, we have the other ideas here for creating interactions with just enough friction so consent becomes an intentional action. Of all the things that the EU is not good at, the EU is actually very ahead of the United States in creating these types of interactions. So this is a really interesting concept. Under the GDPR, in case you guys have ever wondered why all of a sudden you started getting these really annoying cookie banners on every single website you visit for the first time, GDPR in the EU requires that every user opt into the usage of cookies. It's a really interesting model because every single e-commerce company, especially every single company in the EU basically said, what the hell, man? Like, you're adding an extra click, an extra thought that a user has to engage in order to be able to check out on our page. That's stupid. You're hurting us. You're hurting our business. But the fact is that people have become used to it. So by show of hands or thumbs up, how many of you guys even still notice these cookie banners anymore? They're at the bottom of the page. Maybe they're at the top of the page. Maybe they slide out to like the right, or maybe they're in like a bottom left or right corner. So, I would say like a minority of people. Okay, I see a few more popping up. Yeah, I know. I still kind of think they're annoying sometimes. But the fact is that sometimes you ignore them. And I think that especially certain experiences like mobile are incredibly annoying because they'll do like a full screen takeover, a full screen modal, or something that's just grinds your gears because you just want to go read Reddit or something. I mean, the fact is that you really want to make sure that you add experiences with just enough friction, because the fact is that sometimes we just make it too easy for users to just give away their information. And I want you to think about that the next time you're writing, you're designing, you're doing anything that has to do with collecting a user's personally identifying information. You don't really want to make it too easy to give away information, because that's really information that your business, I mean, I don't know what your business is, but generally speaking, most of our online businesses are selling that information to advertisers. Okay, so the next one I have here is if you're in product marketing. And I realize that certain folks in visual design are perhaps working in product marketing first. Product marketing design as well has a lot of ties directly into UX. So I recommend doing a sweep of your brand and marketing site as well. Anywhere you collect emails or phone numbers for marketing lists, it is really good to put something, and this is a Dashlane, which is password manager. We will never sell your email address. That is something that every user should know. And also it makes me as a internet user just more likely to sign up for your email, your listserv. Because the fact is, if I know that you won't sell my email, I'm gonna be a little bit more likely to put my name on it, because I know I'm not gonna see freaking Dashlane ads following me around the internet. And I actually particularly like Dashlane as a password manager. I think it's pretty good. So I do want to stay involved with what their marketing initiatives and stuff are. So I would join an email list that had that. So additionally, for product marketing, confirm what use cases you are using to sell data. Guaranteed, almost every single one of you works at a company where PII is being sold, personally identifying information is being sold. Confirm what use cases you're selling data for, whether you have to, and make sure your visitors know. This is something that a lot of folks, especially in marketing that are performance marketers, they don't necessarily like to do this because it could potentially slow down sales. It can slow down leads. It can slow down conversions. And, they're right. It may. But the fact is that, again, we're looking to restore trust in online businesses. How do you do that? You can only be more transparent with your users. And then lastly here, taking a read of your privacy policy and work with your legal team to make it more consumable to visitors. What I have here, it's an example from Pinterest. I in particular really like the way that the visual design of their privacy policy, very easy to use. They have 10 options at the very top, and they in fact make it drop. Once you click one of those links, it goes down to the point where this is all actually very plain English. Choices you have about your information, what we collect about you. It does not get more clear than that. This is the information we collect about you. If you are a California resident, really, and all you have to read, if you guys are ever interested in what I believe to be a very well-designed privacy policy, go to the Pinterest privacy policy page. You only have to read the first sentence of each one of these titles. You don't have to read that whole block. Literally just read the first sentence, and they summarize it in one succinct sentence, concisely, what they collect about you, what you have to do, what your rights are. All right. If you're in product management, this is a thought experiment, but if we thought about AARR for trust as the measurement, instead of pure user gain, user delta, we could acquire trust. We can activate trust. We can retain trust. What does that actually mean? We can do targeted microsurveys, things like, was this helpful? Was this information about this thing helpful? The fact that we don't collect your information, right? Or we don't sell your information. Was this information helpful to you? Even just these microsurveys, voice of customer focus groups, just understanding from your customers whether they believe that you are a trustworthy brand, whether they believe they can trust and believe in your product from a data privacy standpoint, giving in-app feedback. allowing your customers in-app feedback specifically around various privacy initiatives that you might be running, and then the tried and true NPS, right? Additionally, you want to be able to monetize because your brand is trustworthy, referrals because your brand is trusted. Now, we all have our opinions on these social media networks that are potentially monetizing evil corporate, evil corp, because, you know, they collect a lot of information about you. They collect a lot of information about you, and then they sell that information in the back door. So the fact is that, you know, and I'm very sorry for anyone that is addicted to Facebook or Twitter, but the fact is they've got their hooks in you. They got their hooks in your serotonin centers. And I apologize on behalf of all tech companies because the fact is that they're monetizing you because you're using their platform for free. If you've ever heard the phrase, you are not paying for a product, you are the product, it's absolutely true. The fact is that we want to make sure that, especially if you're in a smaller company or if you're in a position where you can, you know, exert a little bit of influence, we want to see if we can make our users trust us more and regain the confidence in from our customers. And then lastly, working with your legal team to make sure your privacy policy is up to date and easily understandable. The privacy policy is like the last thing that gets updated when you add a new feature. But if you're adding new fields, if you're adding new fields to your sign up form, if you're adding new fields on the checkout flow, you need to make sure that your privacy policy is up to date, because collecting that new information, it does actually have downstream impacts. I'm not going to go into the legal nonsense, but the fact is that every single piece of PII you collect is a point of contention when an auditor comes to your door from the AG's office, from like the California AG office, or from the EU DPC. The fact is that we need to make sure that your privacy policy is actually accounting for all the PII that you as a business need to collect for your users. And obviously designing for that. Now, if you're in engineering, which I don't know if anyone here is, just embedding a privacy governance into your software development process could actually it can speak volumes to your commitment to privacy. Making sure that your software development process, if you're doing safe or agile or whatever you're doing, Scrum Butt or whatever they call these different methodologies, want to make sure that you're actually doing some sort of privacy governance, showing that you're committed to understanding where your PII is flowing throughout your organization. Additionally, we got a data access request and a data erasure request has come in, exercises. Basically, we just want to make sure that if you get a request from Kelly to say, delete my data, that you as an organization could handle it. So if you're in engineering or you have close engineering counterparts, make sure that you're running these tests on occasion. And then lastly, considering a segregated data architecture that is not dependent on any PII for primary keys, partition keys, these things that are very, very closely tied to the, the stability of your application, just making sure that none of that is actually there. And the last thing is, for anyone working at an online business, I realize a lot of us, we just have a small voice. It's a drop in the bucket for the entirety of your business and the entirety of whatever your software platform is. But don't hide from your responsibility to internet citizens. The fact is that you're an internet citizen. We all use the internet. We're all in this together. We can only make the internet better by starting with the companies that we can affect. So with that, I want to leave us with some parting words from the Queen, Cardi B. IAPP, which is the International Associates for Privacy Professionals, 7 days a week, whack-ass privacy, make that compliance game weak. So we don't want to have any whack-ass privacy. We don't want to have any weak-ass privacy. We want none of that. Thank you guys very much. My name is Kelly Huang, VP of Product at Ethyca. I do these talks, so you don't need to buy our product. We want to make sure that you guys stay compliant and commit to creating trust infrastructure for the internet. Thank you.